Welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at the brand new AM8 Knives Kermu. This knife comes in at $206, and in my opinion, it is very reminiscent of the Miguron Fermu, just a flipper version without the little blade window right there, and it's a little bit smaller in overall length. I love the Fermu. Let's see if I feel the same way about the Kermu. So you have a medium-sized EDC knife coming in at 7.9 inches long with a 3.5 inch compound ground drop point blade of Bowler M390 stainless steel. You have a small grippy row of jimping there, definitely grips the thumb nicely. If you don't want to use it, you could overshoot it. You got a nice larger sharpening choil, should give you a good bit of sharpening life before it starts to widen up in the back right here. You have a nice little top swedge that's just barely stops shy of that tip, giving you a nice robust tip there for doing tougher tasks, you know, poking, prodding, whatever you need to do with that tip. In that compound grind, you have a deep hollow grind here that comes down to around 15 thousandths behind the edge, so it's going to be nice and slicey in this portion. Then it thickens up here in this flat ground tip portion at around 22 thousandths behind the edge. So I think it's time to see how this thing cuts. The knife came with a really good edge out of box, and of course that deep hollow grind section is slicing very, very well. I think it's like 15 thousandths behind the edge, so very nice. I can tell also though that they don't have a very thin edge bevel on it. If I had to guess, it's probably 22, 26, somewhere in that area. Definitely something I can change right after this testing though. Testing the ergos, it's got contoured titanium scales, so I figured it would be comfortable, and I was correct. There's no crazy choils or anything, nothing to poke me in the hand. The pocket clip is a new one that I don't recall seeing on any of the AM8 knives. It's nice and comfortable, nice and contoured. There's not a ton of space, but look how much power I'm able to get into this wood. I know it's hard to translate into what you're seeing, but I'm really bearing down in that. It's nice and comfortable. No hot spots that I notice at all. Now we're gonna just cut some 1/2 inch sisal rope. Just want to see how comfortable it is doing so. And I'm using that forward tip portion. That's one good thing about having the higher tip. You have more belly, so it's easier to cut on the flat cutting surface. And we're able to do it fairly easily. Now I got a huge blister on my finger from doing this 2 other times before this, so I go to I think like 60 cuts before I shut it down, and my hands just hurt. Maybe I need more time to recoup in between testing, but it definitely was doing a good job. Like I said, after I lay this edge bevel back, after this review, it's going to perform so much better. Any of the Miguron or AM8 knives that I get, I always lay them down to at least 20 degrees per side. I usually go to like 18 to 17 degrees. I find that's their sweet spot, especially if you're looking for performance. Now, if you're looking for toughness, yeah, sure, just leave it thick like that, and you'll have a tougher edge. It just won't last as long. But definitely A-OK in the performance for me, at least. I was in the pinch grip, is pretty darn comfortable. The handles, the scales aren't too thin or anything. I'm able to get a good purchase on them, and nothing really to complain about. As you can see here, you can use that tip, but it's just a lot easier just to use the belly. You have to raise it up a little bit higher than I usually like, but it's doing well. Now it took a little bit of extra force to get through the tubing, and that's just because of the thicker edge bevel. Same goes with the dense cardboard. It can do it, but it makes it a lot easier when you got a thin edge bevel. But it still has a ton of bite. Felt really, really good, and doing the 10-ounce denim like that, it really shows the bite. Yeah. Definitely enjoyed doing this one. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. It's a flipper only deployment. You got jimping on the flipper tab. It definitely grips a hold of the finger nicely. It's almost above that pivot, so you get a lot of momentum. Well dialed detent. This thing rockets out. It's riding on ceramic ball bearings with a ceramic detent ball. Very nice action. It's breaking in the more and more I carry it and use it. You also have a little milled out landing pad right there for after the flip. It's a nice little added touch. And it's almost a complete free dropper, just some light shakes and it drops down to its home there. Let's take a look at the handle area. You have contour titanium scales with this beautiful micro milling on it. It's like a diamond texture there. Looks really nice, gives you a little added traction. You have some beautiful carbon fiber inlays with the aluminum foil inside it. Looks nice. It's got like a satin finish. No high spots that I can see, no voids that I can see. You have Torx T8 hardware throughout. Excellent job there. You have a small titanium backspacer. You have the AM8 logo on the flush pivot and a little pivot collar on the back side. Not sure if I've ever seen this particular pocket clip used on the Miguron or AM8 knives yet. I could be wrong. But as you can see, it's just got a little contouring on the sides right there to thin it out some. And I like it. It gives it a little bit more flex. However, you don't have a whole lot of room underneath there. So if you have thick seams on your pockets, it may struggle to get underneath here. And I don't know if it'll fit. I didn't have any trouble with my jeans, but I don't really wear super thick jeans. As you can see, that inlay is on both sides. I'm so happy they did that. I hate whenever they don't put it on the opposite side. You have a tip up pocket clip, not deep carry, but you don't have a whole lot sticking out of the pocket. It's only tip up right hand carry. Majority of your milling is done on the outside for the inlays to reduce weight. However, they did still mill out a little bitty pocket right there on the lock side and on the show side, if you can see that. And I'm sure that's to balance the knife. Yeah, pretty nicely balanced. It does feel pretty light and nimble in the hand. Coming in at 4.137 ounces. The lockup on my knife, I'd say, is sitting at around 30% or so. Access to the lock bar is good because the show side scale comes down a little bit lower. Got a nice little chamfer there, so it's nice and comfortable to get my thumb in there. No blade play up or down, left or right. Nice and tight lockup. Now for some quick size comparisons, we got the Ontario Wrap 1 and 2. It's in the middle of those. Next, we have the AM8 Morad and the AM8 Flix 2. It's almost identical to the length of the Morad. Next up, we have the Spyderco PM2 and Power 3. It's a little bit shorter than the PM2. It's a good bit bigger than the Power 3. Now for my nitpicks and complaints. I'm not a huge flipper only fan. I would have loved to see the same blade window as the Mero. Also, it's tip up right hand carry only. Doesn't affect me any, but I know there's some lefties out there. Possibly a little bit tighter fitment on the carbon fiber up here in the top. It's not bad. It's not terrible or anything. And I don't know if it was intentionally done like that. Maybe it's a bevel. But, it'd been nice to have a little bit tighter fitment. Definitely better than they used to be. But, just something to note. You can see it right here. It's not noticeable unless you're zooming in on camera. And you also have a little bit spillage of the epoxy right here. I could probably get that off, and a little bit right here as well. But other than that, I like this knife a good bit. It's an easy one to carry. It's nice and comfortable. It slices well. I will be dropping that edge bevel to about probably 18 degrees per side, and I think this thing would be a performance machine. It performed well with the 24 whatever degrees per side edge bevel that came on it. And if you're buying the knife to be a little bit tougher, say for a work knife, then yeah, you could leave it at that 24 degrees per side or whatever it's at, and it should be a-okay. But if you're looking for max performance, then you want to be, at least under 18 degrees and under. That's what I've found in all the knives I've ever tested. The ones that have those lower edge bevels perform so much nicer, and a lot of the edges last longer as well, depending on the steel. They definitely last longer than the thicker bevels unless it's just way too thin for the steel to handle. But M390 can handle thin edges, and yeah, overall I think it's a good looking knife, priced well. I think $206 is perfectly a-okay for the knife you're getting here. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I will have this link down in the description if you're interested. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.